the silent palace of fear. The Dragon Empire had never been this quiet. The Crystal Palace, once filled with music and roaring laughter, now felt cold and empty. The long golden halls echoed with nothing but the sound of slow footsteps and distant wind. Servants walked softly, afraid to make noise. Even the torches on the walls burned lower, as if they too were scared. At the center of the palace, inside the grand throne hall, the Dragon Empress sat alone. Her name was Empress Veilrith, ruler of 1,000 star systems, feared by enemies across the galaxy. Her silver scales once shined like stars. Her wings once spread wide with pride and power. When she flew, entire armies bowed. But today, she did not look like a ruler. She looked like a mother who had lost everything. 3 days ago, her only hatchling had died. It was not war. It was not betrayal. It was not an enemy attack. It was a strange sickness that came without warning and left without reason. The best dragon healers tried everything. Ancient magic, fire rituals, star medicine brought from distant planets. Nothing worked. The little princess, barely 50 years old, still a child in dragon years, closed her golden eyes and never opened them again. Since that moment, the palace changed. The Empress had not moved from her broken throne. She had cracked it herself in a single moment of grief. The golden armrest still lay shattered on the floor beside her massive claw. No one dared to fix it. No one dared to approach her. Because when dragons grieve, they do not cry like humans. They burn. On the first night after the hatchling's death, her scream shook the entire planet. Mountains trembled. Storms formed in the sky without warning. Lightning struck the palace towers. The air smelled of smoke for hours. The generals feared she would declare war on someone, anyone, just to release her pain. But she did not. That was what made it worse. She simply sat there in silence. Her huge silver wings were wrapped tightly around her body. Her glowing golden eyes stared at nothing. Small lines of smoke escaped from her nostrils every few seconds. The temperature in the hall remained hot, but not from anger, from sorrow. Ministers stood far away near the entrance. Royal guards formed a circle at a safe distance. No one spoke above a whisper. "What if she loses control?" one guard quietly asked. "She has not eaten," another replied. "Not even star meat." The generals worried about the empire. Other systems were watching. Rival dragon clans were waiting for weakness. A grieving ruler could mean danger for everyone. But none of them were brave enough to step forward. Because even in her silence, the Empress was terrifying. High above, large crystal windows allowed pale moonlight to enter the hall. The light touched her silver scales, making them shine softly. If someone did not know the truth, they would think she looked peaceful. But she was not. Inside her mind, memories burned stronger than any fire. Her hatchling's first flight. Her small, excited roar. The way she used to chase glowing fireflies in the royal garden. The little princess loved asking questions about humans. She would secretly watch the human workers cleaning the outer halls. She once asked her mother, "Why are humans so small, but still so brave?" The Empress had laughed that day. Now that memory felt like a blade in her heart. At the far end of the palace, near the lower servant corridors, a human janitor named Elias pushed his cleaning cart slowly. He was 27 years old, thin, quiet, brown hair always slightly messy. No armor, no weapon, no importance. Most dragons did not even know his name. Elias had worked in the palace for 4 years. He cleaned ash from the fire pits. He polished marble floors. He fixed broken lanterns. He stayed invisible. But he noticed things. He noticed that the palace birds had stopped singing. He noticed that the kitchen fires burned less brightly. And he noticed that the Empress had not moved for 3 days. Late that night, after most servants returned to their quarters, Elias passed by the grand throne hall entrance. The giant doors were slightly open. He should not look. Humans were not allowed near during royal mourning. But something made him pause. Through the opening, he saw her. The most powerful being in the galaxy, sitting alone under the cold moonlight. Her massive head was lowered. Her claws rested weakly on the broken throne. And then he saw something that no one else had dared to see closely. A tear. A single glowing tear rolled down from her golden eye and fell onto the stone floor. When it touched the ground, it turned into steam. Elias felt his chest tighten. He remembered his own mother's funeral, the empty house, the silence that felt louder than screams. He understood something the generals did not. The Empress was not dangerous right now. She was alone. Behind him, 2 dragon guards stood at attention. "Move along, human," one of them warned. Elias swallowed. His hands trembled slightly. He knew one wrong step could mean death. One breath of her fire could turn him into ash. But he kept looking at the lonely figure inside the hall. The entire empire feared her flames, but no one feared her sadness. And in that moment, Elias made a choice that no warrior, no minister, no general dared to make. He slowly pushed his cleaning cart aside. He took a deep breath, and he stepped toward the open throne room doors. The guards gasped quietly. "What is he doing?" one whispered. Elias did not know if he was brave or foolish. He only knew one thing: no one should grieve alone. And as he crossed the cold marble floor toward the grieving Dragon Empress, the silent palace held its breath. The flame that chose not to burn. The sound of Elias's footsteps echoed across the marble floor. Each step felt louder than thunder. The 2 dragon guards near the door did not stop him. They were too shocked to move. No human had ever walked toward the Empress during royal mourning. No one had been foolish enough to try. Inside the hall, the air grew hotter with every step he took. The Empress felt him before she saw him. Her golden eyes slowly shifted. The ground trembled slightly as her massive tail moved across the broken throne platform. When Elias reached the center of the hall, he stopped. He was so small compared to her. She was as tall as the palace pillars. Her wings, even folded, were larger than entire houses. One swipe of her claw could end him. The Empress lifted her head. Her eyes locked onto him. The temperature in the hall rose instantly. Flames flickered along the cracks in the shattered throne. The air became heavy, hard to breathe. Smoke curled from her nostrils, thicker now. The guards outside raised their shields. The generals rushed closer, but stayed at a safe distance. "If she burns him," one general whispered, "do not interfere." Elias felt the heat on his skin. His throat became dry. His heart beat fast against his chest. But he did not bow deeply. He did not scream. He did not run. He simply stood there. The Empress's voice came like rolling thunder. "Human." It was not a question. It was a warning. The single word shook the walls. Elias swallowed, but forced himself to speak. "Yes, Your Majesty." Her massive claw pressed into the stone floor. The marble cracked under her weight. "You dare approach me," she said slowly, "when even my own generals fear to stand close?" Her eyes narrowed slightly. "Are you tired of living?" The hall became completely silent. Elias could feel death standing right in front of him. One spark, one breath. That was all it would take. But he had not walked here to be brave. He had walked here because of something stronger than fear. "I'm not tired of living," Elias said quietly. His voice was small but steady. "I just thought, maybe you should not be alone." The words hung in the air. For a moment, the Empress did not react. Then suddenly, flames exploded around her. A wall of fire rose between them, bright and violent. The heat pushed Elias backward. His clothes nearly caught fire. The guard shouted. "Foolish human," one cried. But Elias did not turn away. Through the fire, he could see her eyes. They were not filled with rage. They were filled with pain. "Alone," the Empress repeated, her voice shaking the hall. "I'm the ruler of this empire. I command fleets. I command armies. I command planets." Her wings spread slightly, creating a powerful wind that almost knocked Elias to the ground. "I'm never alone." But even as she said it, her voice cracked at the end. The flames flickered. Elias took one careful step forward, even as the heat burned his face. "With respect," he said softly, "you can command armies, but you cannot command grief." The fire suddenly stopped rising. The flames froze in the air for a second, then slowly lowered. The generals stared in disbelief. No one spoke to the Empress like this. No one survived after speaking like this. The Empress leaned closer to him. Her enormous face came down until one glowing golden eye was directly in front of him. "You speak as if you understand my loss," she said in a low, dangerous tone. Elias felt his knees almost give up, but he remembered the tear he had seen. "My mother died when I was young," he said. "I cannot save her. I was small and powerless." His hands trembled slightly. "I remember sitting beside her bed after everyone left. The house was full of people during the day, but at night it was silent." The Empress did not move. "The silence hurt more than the loss," Elias continued, "because silence means no one is there." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then something impossible occurred. The Empress lowered her wings slightly. The heat in the room decreased. Her eye did not look angry anymore. It looked tired. "You think sitting beside me will change anything?" she asked. "No," Elias answered honestly. "It will not bring her back." The Empress's claws tightened again. Pain flashed across her eyes. "But," Elias continued carefully, "it might stop the silence from winning." The hall remained still. Even the torches seemed to wait. The Empress slowly lifted her head back up. Her tail stopped moving. The flames around the throne faded until only small sparks remained. She did not tell him to leave. She did not burn him. Instead, she shifted slightly on the broken throne, creating space beside the platform. It was not an invitation, but it was not rejection either. Elias understood. Slowly, carefully, he climbed the first step of the throne platform. The guards held their breath. He sat down on the cold marble, not too close, not too far. He did not look at her directly now. He just sat there. Minutes passed. No one spoke. The Empress's breathing slowly became calmer. The storm clouds outside the palace began to move away from the sky. And for the first time since the hatchling's death, the Dragon Empress did not feel completely alone in the darkness of her grief. She did not thank him. She did not accept him, but she allowed him to remain. And in a palace ruled by fire and fear, that was the most powerful thing she had done in days. The secret the Empire tried to bury. The silence between them did not feel empty anymore. It felt heavy. Elias sat on the cold marble beside the broken throne. The Dragon Empress remained still, her massive body glowing softly under the moonlight. No flames, no storms, just slow breathing. Outside the throne hall, the generals argued in whispers. "This is dangerous," one said. "She is unstable. The human is manipulating her. If she grows attached to a human, the High Council will not accept it." One name was repeated again and again in fear. The High Council of Ancient Dragons. They had ruled before the Empress was even born. They respected strength. They respected bloodline. They did not respect humans. Inside the hall, Elias felt the tension in the air shift. The Empress suddenly spoke again, but this time her voice was lower, quieter. "Why do humans sing when they are afraid?" Elias blinked, surprised by the question. He thought for a moment. "Because singing makes the darkness smaller," he answered. The Empress's golden eyes reflected something strange. Not anger, not pride, memory. "My hatchling used to hum strange sounds," she said slowly. "Soft sounds. I thought they were dragon words she was learning." She paused. They were not dragon words. Elias looked at her carefully. She was copying the humans in the garden. The Empress continued. She would hide behind the trees and listen to the workers. Elias felt something tighten inside his chest. "She asked me once," the Empress said, her voice becoming distant, "why humans laugh even when they are weak." The hall felt colder. "And what did you tell her?" Elias asked gently. "I told her humans laugh because they do not understand their place." Silence followed. The Empress's claws slowly pressed into the stone again. "I was wrong." The words were soft, but they shook the hall more than thunder. Before Elias could respond, the giant palace doors suddenly opened with force. Boom! Heavy footsteps echoed inside. 3 ancient dragons entered the hall. Their scales were darker, their horns longer, their presence colder than the Empress's fire. The High Council had arrived. The tallest among them stepped forward. His name was Lord Varian, oldest of the council. "Your Majesty," he said with a stiff bow, "we have allowed this moment of grief. But the Empire cannot remain leaderless." His sharp eyes moved toward Elias. "And what is this?" The word "this" sounded like an insult. Elias felt the danger immediately. The Empress did not turn her head. "He is staying," she said calmly. Murmurs filled the hall. Lord Varian's eyes narrowed. "With respect, Your Majesty," he replied, "humans are servants, not companions." The air grew tense again. Elias felt small under the gaze of three ancient dragons who had likely destroyed entire worlds in their youth. "Leave," one of them growled at Elias. But the Empress's tail suddenly moved. It slammed against the floor once. The entire palace shook. "No." The single word carried power. Lord Varian stepped closer. "Your grief clouds your judgment," he said carefully. There were whispers across the outer systems. Some believed the hatchling's sickness was not natural. The hall went completely silent. Elias slowly turned his head. The Empress's breathing changed. "Speak clearly," she demanded. Lord Varian's eyes flickered. "There are rumors," he said, "that the illness came from the lower city, from the human districts." The accusation hung in the air like poison. Elias felt his heart drop. The other council dragon added, "The hatchling spent much time near the gardens, near humans." The meaning was clear. They were blaming humans. They were blaming Elias. The temperature in the hall began rising again, not from grief, from anger. The Empress's wings slowly unfolded halfway. "Are you accusing my people?" she asked. Lord Varian did not step back. "We are protecting the Empire. If a human sickness killed the future ruler, action must be taken." Elias felt every dragon eye in the room turn toward him. One spark, one wrong word, and humans across the Empire could suffer. The Empress looked down at Elias. Her golden eyes searched his face. He could see the conflict inside her. Grief, doubt, rage, trust. Elias knew this moment would decide more than his life. It would decide the future of two species. He slowly stood up. Every muscle in his body trembled, but his voice remained steady. "My people did not harm her," he said. Lord Varian laughed softly. "And how would a janitor know the secrets of sickness?" Elias swallowed. "Because I was there the night she collapsed." The room froze. The Empress's head snapped toward him. "You were there?" she asked. Elias nodded. "She came to the lower garden alone. She looked weak. She told me not to tell anyone." The generals leaned forward. "What did she say?" the Empress demanded. Elias hesitated for only a second. "She said she felt strange after drinking star nectar sent from the Northern Trade Fleet." Lord Varian's eyes flashed. "That is speculation," he snapped. Elias met his gaze. "No, it is what she told me." The Empress slowly stood to her full height. Her wings spread completely now, touching the pillars. Storm clouds began forming outside the crystal windows again. But this time, the storm was different. It was not wild grief. It was focused, cold, deadly. "You knew this," the Empress said to the council. Lord Varian stepped back slightly. "We had no proof." "But you had suspicion," she replied. The hall trembled as her voice deepened. "And instead of investigating, you chose to blame the weak." Her golden eyes burned brighter. "Humans." The council members looked suddenly less confident. Elias realized something powerful in that moment. The Empire had not just feared her grief. They had feared what she might discover. The hatchling's death might not have been natural, and someone in the Empire wanted to bury the truth. The Empress lowered her head slightly toward Elias. "Why did you not speak before?" she asked. Elias answered honestly. "I'm just a janitor. No one listens to humans." The words hit harder than fire. The Empress turned slowly toward the High Council. "From this moment," she declared, her voice echoing across the palace and beyond, "no voice in this empire will be ignored." Lightning flashed outside. The council members bowed slightly, but their eyes were dark with hidden thoughts. This was not over. The grief had turned into something else. Suspicion, truth, and possibly war within the empire itself. As Elias stood beside the most powerful being in the galaxy, he understood one thing clearly. He had not just sat beside a grieving mother. He had stepped into a storm that could change the fate of dragons and humans forever. The night the sky turned red, the storm did not leave. It waited. Dark clouds circled above the crystal palace, moving slowly like they were watching. Lightning flashed across the sky, but no rain fell. It was the kind of storm that promised something terrible. Inside the throne hall, no one dared to speak after the Empress's declaration. From this moment, no voice in this empire will be ignored. Those words echoed far beyond the palace walls. The High Council bowed and stepped back, but their silence felt dangerous. Lord Varian's eyes remained fixed on Elias. Cold, calculating. Your Majesty, Varian said carefully, if there is even a small chance that the Northern Trade Fleet is involved, we must act wisely. Accusations without proof could divide the empire. The Empress's wings slowly folded halfway. Then we will find proof, she said. Her golden eyes turned toward Elias. You will tell me everything. Elias nodded, though fear pressed against his chest. He had never meant to step into politics. He only wanted to sit beside someone who was grieving. But now he stood in the center of power and danger. Later that night, the throne hall was empty except for the Empress and Elias. The generals had been dismissed. The council had returned to their towers. Only the sound of distant thunder filled the silence. Speak, the Empress said. Elias took a deep breath. She came to the garden after sunset, he began. She looked pale. Her wings were trembling slightly. The Empress closed her eyes. She told me she felt weak after drinking star nectar sent as a gift from the Northern Trade Fleet. The Empress's claws slowly pressed into the stone. That fleet answers directly to the High Council, she said quietly. Elias nodded. She told me not to tell anyone. She said she did not want you to worry. For the first time since the council left, the Empress's body shook, not from rage, but from pain. She was protecting me, she whispered. Before Elias could respond, a sharp sound cut through the air. Crack! One of the crystal windows shattered. An arrow made of black metal shot into the hall and struck the stone floor just inches from Elias. The arrow glowed faintly red. Poison. The Empress reacted instantly. Her wings exploded outward, creating a powerful wind that knocked Elias backward. Another arrow flew in, this one aimed directly at him, but it never reached. The Empress's claw caught it midair. The metal melted instantly in her grip. Her golden eyes burned brighter than ever before. Assassins, she roared. The palace shook. Guards rushed into the hall. More black arrows rained from the sky, breaking through windows. These were not normal weapons. They were designed to kill quietly, to silence someone, to silence a human janitor who had spoken too much. The Empress stepped forward, placing her massive body between Elias and the broken windows. Flames erupted from her mouth, blasting into the night sky. Outside, shadows moved across the palace rooftops. Figures in dark armor leaped between towers. Dragon assassins. But they were not acting alone. One of them wore the symbol of the Northern Fleet. The Empress saw it. Her roar split the clouds. The sky turned red as her fire spread across the storm. The assassins tried to escape, but dragon guards were already in pursuit. One shadow slipped inside the hall through the broken window. A smaller dragon, fast and deadly. He lunged directly toward Elias. Elias froze for half a second. Too slow, too human. The assassin's claws aimed straight for his throat. But before they could strike, the Empress moved faster than lightning. Her tail slammed into the assassin midair, throwing him across the hall. He hit the wall with crushing force. The marble cracked. The assassin tried to stand, but the Empress pinned him down with one massive claw. "Who sent you?" she demanded. The assassin's eyes flickered with fear. "I serve the Empire," he said weakly. "Lie," she growled. Flames circled her claws, slowly tightening around him. "Was it the council?" The assassin hesitated. That was enough. The Empress's eyes darkened. He tried to speak, but before he could answer, a hidden device around his neck activated. Explosion. The assassin's body turned to ash instantly. Silence fell again. Elias stared at the empty space where the dragon had been. They had not come to attack the Empress. They had come to kill him. The truth was dangerous, and someone powerful wanted it buried. The Empress slowly turned toward Elias. You are no longer safe in the lower halls, she said. Her voice was no longer only filled with grief. It carried something sharper. War. They will try again. Elias swallowed. Because I spoke? Yes. She stepped closer, lowering her head until her golden eye met his. You are no longer just a janitor. The storm outside intensified. From this moment, you stand under my protection. The words were powerful, but they were also a challenge. Protecting a human openly would anger many ancient dragons. It could split the empire. In the distance, alarms echoed across the city. Reports were coming in. More attacks. Not on the palace. On human districts. Small fires. Broken homes. Fear spreading. The message was clear. Stay silent, or suffer. Elias felt anger rise inside him for the first time. This is because of me, he said quietly. The Empress shook her massive head. No. Her voice was calm now. Focused. This is because someone believes dragons should rule through fear. Lightning struck one of the palace towers. The sky glowed red, and I will not allow it. She spread her wings fully again. The air trembled. Summon the war generals, she ordered the guards. Her golden eyes locked onto the dark horizon. If the High Council wishes to test my grief, her flames burned brighter. They will learn that a grieving mother is more dangerous than a peaceful queen. As Elias stood beside her, watching the red sky above the empire, he realized something terrifying. The palace was no longer silent. The silence had broken, and what came next would decide whether dragons and humans stood together or burned together. The fire that refused to kneel. By sunrise, the empire was no longer calm. News of the assassination attempt spread faster than fire in dry grass. Dragon cities whispered. Human districts trembled. War fleets began preparing without direct orders. The High Council had not publicly spoken. That silence was louder than any declaration. Inside the war chamber of the Crystal Palace, the Dragon Empress stood at the center of a circular platform made of black stone. Around her, floating star maps showed the Empire's territories, glowing systems, trade routes, fleet positions. Elias stood near the edge of the room, guarded by two elite dragon warriors. He still wore his simple worker clothes, but everyone looked at him differently now. Not as a servant, as a threat. The Empress raised one claw, and the star map zoomed toward the northern trade sector. The assassins carry the crest of the Northern Fleet, she said. General Karen, commander of the Imperial Sky Legions, stepped forward. The Northern Fleet reports no missing soldiers. They claim loyalty. The Empress's eyes narrowed. They lie. A silence followed, because accusing the Northern Fleet meant accusing the High Council. And accusing the High Council meant civil war. Elias stepped forward carefully. Your Majesty, may I speak? Several dragons growled softly at the idea, but the Empress nodded. Speak. Elias swallowed, but forced himself to remain steady. If the fleet wanted to kill me quietly, why attack the human districts too? The generals exchanged glances. To spread fear, one said. Yes, Elias replied. But fear of what? The room grew still. They want humans to panic, Elias continued. If humans riot or run, it creates chaos. Then the council can say humans are unstable, dangerous, a threat. General Karen's eyes widened slightly. And if humans are declared a threat, she said slowly, the council gains emergency authority. The Empress's tail moved once across the stone. Controlled. Deadly. They are not protecting the empire, she said quietly. They are trying to control it. At that moment, the chamber doors burst open. A wounded dragon soldier stumbled inside. His armor was burned. His breathing uneven. Report, the Empress commanded. The soldier dropped to one knee. Your Majesty, the Northern Fleet has mobilized without your order. The room exploded in voices. They cannot do that. That is treason. How many ships? The soldier lifted his head. 2 full battle divisions heading toward the capital. Silence. Even Elias felt his blood run cold. 2 battle divisions were not a show of force. They were a statement. The Empress did not shout. She did not rage. She slowly stepped forward, her wings expanding slightly. Time, she asked. For hours until they reach orbital range. For hours until the sky above the capital filled with warships. General Karen bowed deeply. Give the command, and we will meet them in open battle. The Empress did not answer immediately. Instead, she turned toward Elias. The entire chamber noticed. You understand their plan, she said to him. Tell me how humans would respond. Elias hesitated. Dragons were watching him. Ancient beings who could crush cities. He was still just a janitor. But if he stayed silent now, humans would pay the price. They want you to attack first, he said carefully. If you strike them before they fire, they can claim you are unstable from grief. Murmurs filled the room. And if I do nothing, she asked. Then they show power over you, Elias replied. The Empress's golden eyes glowed brighter. So what do you suggest, human? Elias took a slow breath. Show them you're not ruled by grief, but by control. He stepped closer to the central map. Send a message to the fleet. Public. Across all channels. Invite them to explain their movement in front of the entire empire. General Karen frowned. That shows weakness. No, Elias said quietly. It shows confidence. The room fell silent again. If they refuse, Elias continued, the empire sees who is hiding something. The Empress stared at him for several long seconds. Then something changed in her expression. Not grief, not rage, respect. She turned toward the communication platform. Open all Imperial channels, she commanded. Across the galaxy, screens lit up. Dragon cities paused. Human districts watched in fear. The Empress's massive silver form appeared in the sky above every major system. Behind her, the star map glowed. Her voice carried across planets. To the Northern Fleet, she declared, you approach my capital without my command. Her eyes burned like suns. I invite your commanders to explain this movement before the Empire. In orbit above the northern sector, 2 battle divisions received the transmission. Silence followed. The fleet did not answer immediately. Minutes passed. Across the galaxy, tension tightened like a drawn bowstring. Finally, a response came. The image of Lord Varian appeared. Not from the capital, from aboard a northern flagship. His eyes were calm. Your Majesty, he said smoothly, we move to ensure stability after recent disturbances. The Empress's tail moved once. Disturbances created by assassins bearing your crest. The entire empire heard it. Varian's expression hardened. You accuse without proof. The Empress leaned slightly forward. No, I question openly. Her wings slowly spread. If your fleet approaches my capital peacefully, then power down your forward weapons. Silence. In orbit, northern ships remained armed. Across the galaxy, citizens watched. The choice was clear. Peace or rebellion. Varian's voice came again, colder now. The Empire needs strong leadership, not emotional decisions. The words were a direct challenge. The Empress's eyes darkened. Strong leadership does not hide behind shadows, she replied. In orbit, one northern ship suddenly shifted position. Weapons charging. Gasps echoed in the war chamber. They're locking onto the capital shield grid. General Karen shouted, Orders, Your Majesty. The Empress did not hesitate this time. Her grief was gone. In its place stood something far more dangerous. A ruler who had nothing left to lose. Raise shields, she commanded. Her voice filled the chamber. And prepare the sky legions. She looked at Elias once more. You wish to end the silence. Outside, the sky above the capital began glowing red as Imperial defenses activated. This, she said softly, is what comes after. The first northern warship fired. The battle for the Dragon Empire had begun. The voice that stopped a war. The sky above the capital burned. Imperial shields flared bright gold as the first blast from the northern fleet struck them. The impact shook towers across the city. Windows cracked. Streets trembled. In the war chamber, alarms screamed. Shield integrity at 92%. Second Division entering attack formation. Enemy targeting civilian sectors. The Empress stood unmoving at the center of the chamber. Her wings were fully extended now, casting a massive shadow across the star map. Her grief had transformed. It was no longer chaos. It was focus. Launch the Sky Legions, General Karen ordered. Hundreds of Imperial Dragon fighters burst from hidden launch towers, streaking into the red sky like living comets. Outside, the capital watched as dragons clashed among the clouds. Fire met fire. Claws met steel. Explosions lit the heavens. But something was wrong. The Northern Fleet was not firing to destroy the palace. They were firing near human districts. Not direct hits. Close hits. Close enough to create panic. Close enough to send a message. Inside the chamber, Elias stared at the live projections. "They are not trying to win," he whispered. The Empress turned toward him. "They're trying to provoke." On screen, a Northern warship deliberately missed a human residential tower, the blast close enough to shake it violently. Screams echoed through emergency channels. The High Council's voice suddenly broadcast across public frequencies. Lord Varian appeared again. "Citizens of the Empire," he said smoothly, "observe the chaos that follows when a ruler allows humans influence over dragon law." The accusation was clear. Blame the human. Blame the Empress's grief. Blame weakness. Elias felt anger rise inside him. "They want the people to turn against you," he said. The Empress's golden eyes narrowed. "They want fear." Another blast struck near a hospital in the human quarter. Not enough to destroy. Enough to terrify. General Karen roared. "Permission to destroy the Northern flagship." The chamber waited. If the Empress gave that order, civil war would become unstoppable. Thousands would die. Maybe millions. The Empress closed her eyes for a single second. In that second, she saw her hatchling again. Not sick. Not weak. Laughing in the garden. Listening to human songs. When she opened her eyes again, something had changed. "Open a direct channel to the Northern flagship," she commanded. The general stared in disbelief. "Your Majesty." "Now!" The channel opened. Lord Varian's face appeared again, irritation clear in his expression. "You risk much by challenging the council publicly," he said. The Empress did not roar. She did not threaten. She stepped forward into full view of the transmission crystal. Behind her, the battle still raged in the sky. "You claim I am ruled by grief," she said calmly. Her voice carried across every system again. "You claim humans bring instability." She slowly turned her head. "Then let the Empire hear the truth." She looked at Elias. "Speak." The chamber froze. Elias blinked. "Me? Yes." The Empress's voice was steady. "They attack you. Let them face your voice." Every dragon in the room stared at him. Every citizen across the Empire watched. A human janitor now stood before the galaxy. Elias's heart pounded. He was not a warrior, not a politician, but he remembered the hatchling's question. Why do humans laugh even when they are weak? He stepped toward the crystal. "My name is Elias," he began. His voice trembled at first, but he continued. "I clean the palace floors. I'm not powerful. I'm not important." He took a breath. The princess came to the gardens because she was curious. Not because humans forced her. Not because humans are dangerous. He looked directly at the projection of Varian. She drank star nectar sent by the Northern Fleet. She felt sick after. Murmurs exploded across public channels. Varian's expression hardened. "Baseless accusation from a servant," he snapped. Elias shook his head. "If I am nothing, why send assassins to kill me?" Silence. Across the Empire, dragons exchanged uneasy glances. Elias continued. "If humans were weak and meaningless, you would not fear our voice." The Empress watched him carefully. The battle outside slowed slightly as ships hesitated. Elias's voice grew stronger. The princess did not see humans as servants. She saw us as different, but brave. He looked toward the Empress. "She wanted to learn our songs." The words spread across the Empire like fire. In the sky, several Imperial Dragon pilots stopped attacking. Northern Fleet ships held formation, uncertain. The war had paused, not because of weapons, because of words. The Empress stepped beside Elias. "You attack civilians to create fear," she said to Varian. "You fire near human homes so that I react in rage." Her golden eyes burned. "But I will not give you the war you desire." She lifted her head high. To the Northern Fleet, she declared, power down weapons now. Return to defensive positions. Any ship that fires again will be marked as traitor to the throne. This time, her voice was not grieving. It was absolute. In orbit, a long silence followed. Then, one Northern warship powered down its cannons. Another followed. Across the galaxy, dragons watched carefully. If they disobeyed her now, they would be openly rebelling. Varian's jaw tightened. You risk dividing the Empire, he warned. The Empress leaned closer to the transmission crystal. No, she said quietly. I risk exposing those who already divided it. Seconds felt like hours. Then, one by one, Northern Fleet ships began lowering shields. Weapons powered down. Engines shifted from attack formation. The sky above the capital slowly dimmed from red to gold. The battle ended without a final strike. In the war chamber, no one spoke. Elias exhaled slowly, only now realizing he had been holding his breath. The Empress turned to him. You did not stop a war with strength, she said. You stopped it with truth. Outside, citizens across the Empire watched in stunned silence. The High Council had been challenged publicly, and they had stepped back. But this was not victory. It was exposure. And exposed power is the most dangerous kind. Far away, aboard the Northern flagship, Lord Varian stood alone in his chamber. His claws pressed into the metal floor. This is not finished, he whispered. Back in the capital, the Empress looked at the horizon. The council will not retreat quietly, she said. Elias nodded. What happens now? The Empress's wings slowly folded behind her. Now, she said, her voice calm but powerful, we uncover the truth completely. Because the war had not been won in the sky. It had only begun in the shadows. The crown of fire and truth. The sky above the capital was quiet again. Too quiet. The Northern Fleet had powered down its weapons, but it had not left orbit. Its massive ships floated in silence, like dark shadows waiting for the right moment. Inside the Crystal Palace, tension filled every hall. The High Council had been publicly challenged. The Empress had openly accused them, and a human had spoken before the entire empire. There was no turning back now. 3 days later, the Grand Convocation was called. It was the oldest law of dragon rule. When the throne and the council stood in conflict, all major clan leaders, war generals, and fleet commanders had to gather in the capital to witness judgment. If the Empress failed to prove her claims, the council could strip her authority. If the council was exposed, their power would shatter. The throne hall was repaired, but the crack in the golden armrest remained by the Empress's order. Let them see what grief costs, she had said. Elias stood at the edge of the hall, no longer in simple worker clothes. He now wore a dark formal coat marked with the royal crest, not as a servant, but as an official witness under imperial protection. Even so, many dragon eyes glared at him with silent hatred. The High Council entered last. Lord Varian walked at the front, calm and dignified. His scales were polished, his expression unreadable. The hall door sealed shut. The convocation began. The Empress rose to her full height. 3 days ago, she declared, her voice echoing through crystal walls, the Northern Fleet approached my capital without command. Assassins targeted a protected citizen. Human districts were attacked to create fear. She turned toward the council. You deny involvement. Varian stepped forward smoothly. We acted only to stabilize a grieving empire. Murmurs rippled across the hall. The Empress's golden eyes burned. Then explain this. She raised one claw. The central projection crystal activated. A recording filled the hall. The image showed the captured assassin from the throne room. Not the explosion, but moments before. Hidden inside the palace floor had been an old security crystal, forgotten by most. But not by Elias. He had remembered cleaning around it. The recording zoomed closer. The assassin's armor bore the Northern Fleet crest, but beneath it, hidden under the metal plating, was a second symbol. The private seal of Lord Varian. Gasps filled the hall. Varian's expression did not change, but his claws tightened slightly. A forgery, he said calmly. The Empress lowered her head slightly. Then perhaps this is also a forgery. Another projection appeared. This one showed a cargo transfer log from the Northern Fleet, Star Nectar shipment records. One specific shipment had been rerouted, modified. A rare chemical had been added before reaching the capital. The same chemical that Imperial healers had found in the hatchling's blood, but could not trace. Elias had helped the healers recheck records. Quietly, carefully, and the truth had been buried in shipping codes. Silence crushed the hall. Varian's calm mask cracked for the first time. "You cannot prove intent," he said sharply. The Empress stepped down from her throne platform. Each step shook the floor. "My daughter was not weak," she said, her voice low and controlled. "She was poisoned." Shock spread like wildfire. The clan leaders began whispering fiercely. "You risk civil war with these accusations," Varian growled. The Empress's wings slowly expanded. "No," she replied. "You already started one." The air grew hotter. Guards moved closer to the council members. Varian suddenly straightened, his voice rising. "You would place the word of a human above ancient dragon blood." The hall went deadly quiet. All eyes turned to Elias. The moment felt heavy, centuries of tradition pressing down on a single truth. The Empress answered before Elias could. "I place truth above blood." Her voice thundered. "My daughter believed strength was not in size or flame." She turned toward the gathered leaders. She believed strength was in courage. Her golden eyes locked on Varian. "And courage is something you lack." Suddenly, Varian's body shifted. His wings burst open violently. "You are unfit to rule," he roared. In one swift movement, he lunged toward the throne platform. Chaos exploded. Guards rushed forward, but the Empress was faster. She met him midair. The clash of ancient dragons shook the entire palace. Fire collided with fire. Claws struck with enough force to crack stone pillars. Varian fought with desperation, not honor. He aimed not for victory, but for destruction. If he could not control the Empire, he would tear it apart. He lunged again, not at the Empress this time, at Elias. The move was sudden and vicious, but the Empress saw it. With a roar that shook the heavens, she intercepted him. Her claws locked around Varian's wings. "You will not touch him," she growled. The force of her flames surged. Not wild grief, not blind rage, focused justice. Varian screamed as her fire engulfed him. When the flames cleared, he lay defeated on the cracked marble floor. Alive, but powerless. The hall was silent. The remaining council members slowly lowered their heads. One by one, they bowed, not to fear, to truth. The Empress stepped back toward her throne. "Lord Varian is stripped of rank and authority," she declared. "He will stand trial before the Empire." No one objected, because the truth had been seen. And dragons respected power, but they respected justice more. The convocation ended. The council's power was broken, and something new had begun. That evening, the Empress stood alone in the royal garden, the same garden where her hatchling once laughed. Elias approached quietly. "You did not have to protect me like that," he said softly. The Empress looked toward the stars. "She believed in you," she replied. "She believed humans carried something dragons forget." Elias smiled faintly. "What is that?" The Empress lowered her massive head slightly. "Heart." The wind moved gently through the garden trees. For the first time since her daughter's death, the Empress did not feel only pain when she stood there. She felt purpose. Across the galaxy, news spread quickly. A human janitor had spoken before dragons. A corrupt council had fallen. A grieving mother had chosen justice over rage. The Empire would change now, not through fire, but through unity. And in the quiet garden, beneath a sky no longer red with war, the Dragon Empress understood something her daughter had known all along. Strength is not proven by who kneels before you. It is proven by who stands beside you.